National Assembly resumes after party primaries. I'm Linda Akibe and you are welcome to the Gavel. Federal lawmakers are back to work after weeks spent on primary elections for return tickets to the National Assembly, as well as presidential primaries in various political parties. However, the mood in both chambers on resumption day on Tuesday was gloomy and the chambers were scanty. It's no surprise that the atmosphere was not warm, as many lawmakers in both houses were unable to clinch tickets to return to Parliament. They were edged out by other aspirants or simply did not contest after sensing imminent defeat. This means that the 9th Assembly will see a high turnover rate of federal legislators. Now, the Speaker of the House of Representatives has shared what could possibly have led to this. We also witnessed prominent federal legislators jump ship to other political parties.
Further casting a gloomy cloud during the resumption of legislative proceedings in the National Assembly is the defection of 3 prominent senators. The minority leader, Senator Ainaya Baribe, who was jumping ship from the PDP to APGA, and the majority leader, Senator Yahaya Abdullahi, as well as Senator Adamu Aliero, both from Kebbi State, who have left the ruling All Progressives Congress for the opposition People's Democratic Party.
The position of the minority leader is vacant for the PDP to fill. If you want him to consult you, I have no objection.
Lawmakers in the opposition, PDP, however, raised concerns over Senator Abaribe's defection to APGA.
We felt as a minority caucus that our leader ought to meet with us, not to take our permission for cause's sake. Meet with us, discuss with us. He is the custodian of all our rights here.
For Senators Yahaya Abdullahi and Adamu Aliero, their decision to leave the APC for the opposition is contained in a letter read by the Senate President.
I write to inform you of the withdrawal of my membership of the All Progressives Congress APC and consequently resign from my position as the majority leader of the 9th Senate. I came to this decision after a very hard struggle with my conscience and emotions. It is either to remain on the side of my people or to selfishly look the other way. All politics is local. I cannot therefore in good conscience continue to work for the success of this administration at the center, while the people of my state, my primary constituency, continue to wallow in abject poverty and destitution under the misrule and manipulation of a despot. I have therefore decided to pitch my tent with the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in order to join forces with my compatriots at home who are struggling against incompetence, imposition, and violation of democratic norms, principles, and practices. The democratic challenges and deficits in my state, Kebbi State, did not just start from the last Congresses, but right from July last year, when the governor illegally decapitated the state leadership of the party, imposed unelected ward, local government, and state executives of the party. This matter was brought to the attention of the caretaker committee of the party, who failed to bring the governor to order. Efforts by all well-meaning individuals, including Your Excellency, Mr. President, were equally spanned. The Northwest Zone governor's entreaties were ignored. The defunct Abdullahi Adamu-led National Reconciliation Committee's intervention to find amicable resolutions failed, all primarily due to the manipulative intransigence of the governor.
But Senator Betty Apiafi is not satisfied with the decision by Senator Abdullahi to leave his party.
68(1)(g) of the Nigerian provision states that being a person whose election to the House was sponsored by a political party and he becomes a member of another political party before the expiration of the period of which the House was elected, provided that his membership of the later political party is not as a result of a division in the political party for which he was previously a member, or of a merger of 2 or more political parties, or faction by one for which he was previously sponsored. The President of the Senate, or, as the case may be, the Speaker of the House of Assembly, receives a certificate under the hand of the Chairman of Independent National Electoral Commission, stating that provisions of 69 of the Constitution has been complied with. Mr. President, I want to state that we have a very critical decision to make in the Senate today. This decision stems from the fact that we have people who have contested the election from political parties, and like the leader of the Senate, the majority leader of the Senate has not proven to us that there is a division in the APC.
Senator Beta Biafi, I note your point of order. Go to court.
The Senate President read a letter from Senator Abaribe officially leaving the PDP.
The position of the minority leader is vacant for the PDP to fill. I wish, on behalf of all of us, I wish our dear friend, the Sungu Senator Abaribe, very successful membership of his new political party. And with this, we have ABGA represented in the chamber by one senator, just like YPP.
Regardless of their political future, these lawmakers still have a job to do before the expiration of the 9th Assembly, such as giving attention to improving the security challenges in the country, efficient oversight of all the arms of government, scrutinizing the budget implementation, and effective representation of their constituents.
It's mixed emotions among federal lawmakers as the National Assembly resumed plenary. The Senate and the House of Representatives suspended plenary for almost 4 weeks to allow federal lawmakers participate in the primaries for political parties. Some legislators were triumphant in the just concluded party primaries, but many others were unable to clinch tickets to return to the National Assembly or other elected positions. Preliminary reports indicate that the 9th Assembly will have a high turnover rate of legislators, a situation which has caused discontent among lawmakers.
I know.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, questions the political party primaries held across the country, which saw about 178 serving members of the House of Representatives fail to secure return tickets in their various parties. According to him, many members lost because of the process of primaries using the delegate system, which is what the National Assembly was fighting for by making direct primaries compulsory in the Electoral Act. Unfortunately, the president refused to assent to this clause, which eventually had to be expunged, allowing political parties decide their mode of primaries.
I make bold to say here that the legislature has once again suffered losses. The loss really is not for members who lost. It's a loss to democracy, to the institution, and to the country. If it means anything, I know and I am aware that many of our members did not lose their primaries because they were rejected by their constituents. No, far from it. Many of our members lost because of the process which we foresaw in the House of Representatives, the delegate system, which unfortunately is not what a delegate system is supposed to be. Many of our members lost because they were not even given a fair shake or a fair shot. We have good legislators, both here in chambers and back home, who are probably not coming back because of this same process. When we fought for direct primaries in this House, we knew exactly what we were saying. And it is that fight and the kick and the pushback by many who knew or felt they knew what they wanted to do that has now become the bane of the institution of the legislature. It pains me very deeply that the process has gone the way it has gone, where willy-nilly people are changing names, not just delegates' names, but even some of our members who won are now being deprived of the fruit of their labor. We will continue to push. We will continue to fight for our members. But it's not our members that we're fighting for. Let me make that very clear. We're fighting for democracy. We're fighting for the institution. And we're fighting for this country.
However, Senator Ahmed Lawan is hopeful of a better outcome for his colleagues.
The electoral process might have thrown up certain issues that the National Assembly could also look at and address, because the Electoral Act itself, even though a good document, is not a perfect document. So it needs some refinement from time to time to improve our electoral process. I wish all of us a very successful final year. This country can do better. And this National Assembly has done quite well to make governance better in this tenure.
Regardless of the criticisms by the Speaker on the just concluded party primaries, some lawmakers want further actions to be made on the matter.
Where in circumstances it has been weaponized, where, as a matter of fact, there was an aspiration to make the law a more perfect law, to remove every ambiguity, and where there isn't any material difference between the 2010 Act and that of 2022. And suddenly, majority of members, where it has been weaponized, have become victims. Something is wrong in an environment, in an institution, where the two leaders of the Senate would have to cross to other parties because of an inherent inclement condition. Anything that occasions it, anything that warrants it, if it is our electoral act, if it is our politics, if it is the environment where we operate, we need to retool. And like you said, we've got to do a better work and we have to fight on. For me, it is just a battle that is lost. The war is on, and that we should go ahead to make sure that that law is retooled, made clear, and if it demands it requires this Parliament to take action to override what has not been signed, we should be willing to do so.
Honorable Ben Igbakwa further draws the attention of the House to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill the House transmitted to the President on the 13th of May, which he is yet to respond to. The amended bill sought to allow statutory delegates to vote in party primaries and conventions.
Mr. Speaker, there's no way in the Constitution that managed to go through, I'm not a lawyer, but there's no way that said that one arm of government is subservient to the other. I think we are beginning with the good work that you are doing, Mr. Speaker. I just said you are a very good man, a wonderful man with your leadership. But by the time you leave this seat, by June next year, Mr. Speaker, Nigerians will not remember the good that you have done for me as a person, for the one you have done for our colleagues. They will remember you by the laws that you passed that have bettered the laws of Nigerians. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, we cannot continue to act as if we are under the executive arm of government. This Constitution gave us the powers, just like we gave to them. Mr. Speaker, I implore you, as a great leader, to please, it is time, if we are sure we have done what is right to the Electoral Act 2022, we should rise up, take our pen, collect signatures, and by the grace of God, override Mr. President, and give Nigerians the enabling electoral law that will stand the test of time.
The House is asking the Independent National Electoral Commission to extend the voters' registration deadline by 60 days and deploy additional staff and registration machines across the country. However, lawmakers rejected an amendment calling for the decentralization of the registration process to include some social and religious centers. You're welcome back to the Gavel. On Sunday, 5th June 2022, Nigerians were stunned by reports of the killings of 40 worshippers by terrorists at the St. Francis Catholic Church, Owo, Ondo State. 80 others suffered varying degrees of injuries. The National Assembly is demanding that security agencies capture the killers and ensure justice is done. Federal lawmakers in the House of Representatives observe a minute's silence in honor of the worshippers killed at the St. Francis Catholic Church, Owo, Ondo State, on Sunday, 5th June 2022.
May the souls of the Owo carnage victims rest in peace.
The House passes a resolution calling on the police to ensure that the killers are apprehended and brought to book. That motion paves the way for a debate on security issues, which have become a regular topic in both chambers of the National Assembly.
Mr. Speaker, on the 8th June 2022, the people of Boshkri were attacked at night, and about 3 people were killed, houses were burned. Even as I'm talking now, many of them are sleeping in primary schools and in churches.
Like my constituency had a very devastating experience 2 days ago, where students of Government Science School Kuru, one was shot dead, 2 still in the hospital. Yesterday, a priest in my constituency again was kidnapped and in captivity.
Nigeria is currently faced with an unprecedented wave of security challenges, ranging from insurgency, banditry, kidnappings, communal clashes, insurrection, and other violent crimes that have affected most parts of the country.
The House also considers a motion on the need to secure the release of the kidnapped Abuja-Kaduna train passengers and other Nigerians still in captivity.
Concerned that if nothing is done urgently to secure the freedom of these victims in captivity across the country, citizens may lose hope in government. Urge the federal government to offer assistance to family members of the kidnapped persons.
The House further mandates its committees on Army, National Security and Intelligence to ensure compliance. The Senate also debates the Owo killings and asks security agencies to be discreet in collaborating on intelligence gathering and sharing to prevent future attacks by bandits and insurgents. The upper chamber is also urging security organizations to intensify efforts to investigate the attack and killing of worshippers at the St. Francis Catholic Church, Owo, and bring the perpetrators to book.
Senate notes with sadness that the attack on St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo led to the killing of 40 worshippers, and about 80 worshippers suffered varying degrees of fatal injuries. Senate further notes that the attackers deployed dynamite and heinously massacred aged persons, women, and children at St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo. Senate notes that such massacre could lead to inter-religious conflicts and ethnic war in Nigeria, and further notes reports of killings of Nigerians across different parts of the country.
The Senate has resolved to honor Ejiro Otarigo, the brave tanker driver who drove a burning tanker from a danger zone to avert a tragic fire incident in Abaho, Delta State. It also recommended Mr. Ejiro to President Buhari for national honors. This followed a motion moved by the Deputy Senate President, Ovie Omo-Agege, during Tuesday's plenary session. In a rare act of bravery, Mr. Ejiro had last week driven a burning truck away from a densely populated area to Agbaho River, where the tanker was completely razed by the inferno. The act was captured by onlookers and has gone viral. Senator Omo-Agege stressed that but for Ejiro's courage, a major fire disaster, which would have claimed several lives and property, could have happened in his senatorial district.
Nigerians from all walks of life and people globally have commended Mr. Ejiro Otarigo for his audacious act of heroism, which has saved our nation from a great national tragedy and mourning. Mr. President, it is proper for this distinguished Senate to document for posterity and honor the exploits of this great Nigerian hero and patriot.
Constituency projects by federal lawmakers have been a thorny issue and thrown up debates in the public sphere. Discussions on the projects range from the constitutionality of it in the first place, its effectiveness, and how it can be better managed. A civil society organization, Order Paper, held a dialogue during the week on situating constituency projects in electioneering campaigns. Now, during the dialogue, we spoke to federal legislators, public analysts and academics on ways of managing constituency projects to ensure they work. This is a dialogue organized by a non-governmental organization called Order Paper to examine constituency projects by federal lawmakers, its practice, role in electioneering, accountability issues and management.
To be honest, it's difficult to make an assessment, a valid, objective assessment of lawmakers on constituency projects. Like you very well know, it's a controversial issue. You know, whether funds are released and to what extent the projects are implemented are issues that are, you know, subject to scientific validation. The data is quite not available to determine that kind of judgment. So what we want to do again, with respect to this conversation we're having, is to have this kind of conversations, get citizens, conscientize them to know that, okay, look, this is not really what you're supposed to do. Can you tell us what you're supposed to do? And let us also give you what we want you to do. So expectations from both ends are measured.
A former Director General of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Ladi Hamalai, believes constituency projects are a very important endeavor in improving the lives of Nigerians at the grassroots, but maintains that the country needs to formulate a model that would best suit citizens.
Most of these constituency projects are within the purview of the jurisdiction of local governments and states. If you don't involve them, then there will be a problem. And in some cases, you find the state legislators are also queuing up at the state level to implement similar projects. So you have overlap of projects in many cases. And so I think there's a need for streamlining, collaboration, cooperation to ensure that these huge amount of funds expended would be utilized to the benefit and welfare of the communities.
A federal lawmaker, Senator Yaya Oluregbe, speaks to us on the policy for constituency projects.
I don't think it's policy that will address abandonment. I think it should be more of appropriate guidance and education to the people facilitating projects. I'm a legislator now. I can tell you that there's none of my projects that will be abandoned. The last 3 years, there's none I've not finished, and there's none that I will put this year that will be abandoned. Why is this? One is I don't put a project without knowing the cost. Before I put the project, I get a cost. So in which case, any project started within a budget year is completed.
On the sidelines of a dialogue, we had a chat with a legislative expert, Mr. Chibuzo Okereke, to discuss more on the management of constituency projects.
When these allocations are made, the lawmakers now, based on the available resources, try to distribute projects across their constituency without even determining the cost of most of those projects. At best, it's at assumptive level. Now, it is only when the project gets to the MDA and goes through the procurement process that they now do a BOQ on it. And you will discover that probably the amount allocated, for instance, is 30 million. And it was a health center that will cost almost 80 million. On that, even the 30 million will not be fully released. Even if it's fully released, it will not execute that job. And let's say the 30 million outside all the statutory charges are put into that project, it will get to 11. In the next fiscal year, we expect, if there is a framework, for that same project to come back to the budget for completion. And most times it's not the case because another priority have emerged. Or maybe election is coming, we need to pay attention somewhere else. Now, even when you have done it, you need the local government and the state primary health care agency to take it over because it's something that will require personnel, it will require consumables, it will require overhead costs, which are not even provided in the budget that implemented that project.
This is where we call it a day on this week's edition of The Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us and see you again next week.